Welcome to the Council of Moms. The Council of Moms is a place where you go for real advice and real talk. Sure, we can all look up articles on the internet. We can Google anything we want to. But when you really want to know what's going on and how to parent, and if it's just you or I can't believe I just said, those kinds of questions, you go to your best girlfriends and you really just hope that they'll be honest and open with you and lay it all out. And when you do, I think it makes you a better mom. It makes you a better human. You get a little bit more connection and empathy that way. And this is the kind of feeling that we're trying to create here on the Council of Moms. So I appreciate you watching or listening wherever you are. So I want to get to introducing the council today. And I've asked them to not only introduce themselves, but also to answer the question, what don't your kids know about you yet? And it could be something that you hope stays hidden or something that you hope they discover. It could be either one. And I'll start because, it's only fair. So, Lisa Valentine Clark, host of The Lisa Show, so happy to be here on the Council of Moms. And something that I don't think my kids know about me is how into swing choir I was. As my kids have gotten older and I've realized who they are, I have maybe downplayed my participation, my love for, my experiences in swing/show choir, which was very big and very cool, by the way, in Nebraska. You'll have to take my word for it. I have lots of videos that I remember thinking, oh, my kids are going to love this. They haven't seen them. It remains a mystery to
Protect
them.
the
Will it remain a mystery forever? Only time will tell. Also on the council with secrets of her own.
Oh, Emily Starr. Hi, I'm Emily Starr. I am a host with BYU for Random Acts with Lisa. And something, my kid doesn't know very much about me besides the fact that I'm her food source.
Yeah.
But as soon as she learns English, I'll probably start telling her about how much I love Weird Al.
Oh, okay. So you're not going to keep it hidden.
No. Yeah. Well, my husband will probably try and keep it hidden from her, but that I know every single Weird Al lyric better than the lyrics of the actual song.
Wow.
Like I can,
That's
and
a
I
commitment.
sing the Weird Al lyrics when the real song is on the radio.
Okay. You're a purist.
I am a Weird Al purist.
Okay.
I'm Julie Taylor, and I think the secret that I'm intentionally keeping until they're of age are my go-to karaoke songs. They're not ready for it.
They're not ready.
They can't handle it.
No, we do karaoke as a family, and I fake it. I sing other songs. But when they're of age, they'll find out.
Okay. I like that.
I like to be mysterious.
You're raising them for that purpose, which I like.
I'm Gina James, and Lisa kind of stole mine because honestly, they don't understand.
They don't.
The dedication that we had to show choir.
You guys.
We were a couple years apart, so we were never in the same choir.
The choir couldn't have handled
The
it.
choir, no, it couldn't have.
2 Clarks, too many.
Yeah, no. But really, it was significant portion of my life is being in choir and the singing and dancing, but also I have a deep-seated desire to be in a large organized choir.
Yeah.
I do.
Now,
But
I'm
I've
not
held
one
on.
to just stand
Yeah.
and sing, but like
It's
to
not
like
satisfied.
move.
Yeah,
no,
You're not
no.
Too. You
satisfied.
can't
No.
just.
You're not just standing and singing, Emily. No.
It's not a step touch. There's spinning, partner dancing.
a box step.
Props?
I did an
Great
entire
A
song
sprinkler?
balking like a chicken.
I mean,
There's
that
a
is
lot of
commitment.
vocal range involved in this. But our children don't understand.
No.
They don't.
No.
They don't.
They've
And they
never
never
seen
will.
No. Full commitment.
Yeah. I've made my husband watch some videos when we were dating. surprised he still married me.
Oh
But,
my
you know,
goodness.
it's there. So then I think he's kind of buffered it with the kids. Like, the kids
Yeah.
will never see this.
Yeah.
Protect
It's
the
doing you a
children.
favor.
He
It's
is.
nice. It's good to have somebody on your side. It's interesting that we start with controversy. I think it's appropriate because we reached out to the Lisa Show listeners, and we were like, listen, we love doing the Council of Moms. You've listened to it. Thank you. But what questions do you have for the Council of Moms? And it's interesting because this topic is very controversial. And I really do think that it divides a lot of us as parents of like, oh, you do that? And then we just kind of go into our secret corners. And part of the what's so positive about the Council of Moms is like, no, let's just like lay it out. We can be respectful of each other. We don't have to be the same. We don't have to have the same rules and ideas about this because we don't have the same kids. We're not the same people. So with that in mind, a question that I got over and over again was with technology and your children, how do you adapt to changing technology and adapt your parenting to that? How do you know too much is this and what do you, I can't tell you how many like younger moms are like, okay, so what are your rules? And I'm like, you guys don't know. I am making it up as I go. On the seat of my pants, I have changed my mind so many times as the technology changes and as I read more articles, which my kids love when I read a new article. And because I started parenting without a cell phone. I got my first flip phone when I had 3 kids. It's a different world. It's changed so fast. So I feel like a fraud when someone asks me, well, what do you do? But I like having the conversation because I don't think any of us know how we're doing.
Nobody
or
knows
what we're doing.
No.
And
Nobody knows what they're doing.
A lot of people say they know this is it, but I guarantee in 5 years you'll look back and they have modified because the technology has. So that's my little soapbox moment, knowing that this is controversial, that we are all different and that we've like lived different lives. Some of us are starting out making these decisions. Some of us have been doing it for a long time and we've got everything in between. So how do you adapt with the changing technology and your parenting?
Well, one positive is we have a family group chat that is probably a highlight of my day when the kids text each other or text us or memes or fun things. So I like the way that it has helped us stay connected. I have a couple that don't live at home. I have a couple that are just on the go all the time. And I like knowing where they are. I mean, that's a requirement. If we're paying your cell phone bill, then you have to let me know where I can see your location at all times. And so I like knowing where they are, and then I like communicating with them in a way if they'll check their phones.
Yeah, that it. I'm glad
So
that you
I mean,
started
I'm
with the
gonna
positive.
start. I'm gonna start positive. I'm gonna start positive there.
Well, and I'd like to add on to the positive too, because as a new mom, I find myself feeling guilty when I use technology to help
Yeah.
with the baby because, I mean, we have this one YouTube video that just catches her attention. Her name is Miss Rachel. She's amazing. But it doesn't matter what she's doing or how upset she is. If we put her in front of Miss Rachel singing an icky sticky bubblegum song, she is the happiest child on the planet.
Wow.
And
Take
you
the
know,
win. Take the win.
And to take the win when you can, like, because I'll put her in front of it and think, oh my gosh, I'm making her addicted to technology. But we also, you know, will go 2 weeks without using screens at all, you know?
I don't know, but I understand that is possible.
Have you ever lived your life without a screen? I don't know.
I do feel like it's kind of like there's no precedent, right? So that's why this is hard.
Yeah.
Because there's no precedent. I
Yeah.
remember I got a cell phone in high school and I got a job at Chuck E. Cheese to pay the $9.99 a month because I wanted unlimited texting and my parents wouldn't buy me texting, right? So that's like
Wow.
It was-
That's commitment.
and I
There
did
you
really
go.
bad things with that texting. So my poor children, because I'm going off what I chose to do. But I feel like there's no precedent, but also there is precedent for a balance between, because my gut reaction is like, no, never, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't even want to mess with it.
I don't, because it just complicates things. It gives me less control. And I do think there is precedent for things like this historically in parenting, where our temptation is just to say, absolutely not. I want control. Let's not touch it. And then kind of understanding you've got to walk the line because this is the world that we live in. And you're not actually doing your kids a service by.
If they never have a phone and they turn 18 and they go get a phone.
What will
and live
happen?
Yeah.
That's the attitude that
I don't know.
that that we've taken in our house is, okay, let's, push it off as long as possible, right? But then at a certain point, it becomes, and again, I don't want to be, I'm not outsourcing my decisions to someone else, but there's a time where it's like, no, I need to know where my kids are. They're babysitting for someone, or they're using them sometimes in class, or the kids ride the bus to school. Like, I need a communication, and I know that's justification. But so we held off as long as possible, right, for the kids to have them, and then put very specific parameters on. But realizing, just to your point, this is the world we live in. These are some of the things they're going to have to learn to manage it. So it's easier for me when they're in my home and somewhat under my control to set some parameters and ask those questions so that they can learn to manage it themselves.
Teach them the
Yeah.
skill
Yeah.
of using it. But I think the reason
Yeah.
it can be so triggering is because how many of us have a healthy relationship with our phones?
Well,
Right.
that's
Exactly.
the thing.
That
Do
is
as I
the
say, not
part
as I
that's
do.
the hardest
So
for me.
it's easy for me to be like, no way, no way, no way, as I'm looking
Scrolling.
Hey
at my
guys,
phone.
get off your phones and talk to each other.
Stop.
I'm working. Just a minute.
That
you know?
always.
Well,
I
so
do
how do
it-
you do that? Yeah, what do you do? Because that's a big thing. My kids will be like, Mom, you're not even listening. I'm like, so I've had to, called out by my children, so when they talk now, I put down and I make eye contact, the things that I want them to do.
Yeah, I think like starting with simple rules like no phones at the dinner table if you have dinner together as a family, or like if it's not dinner, having a specific time of the day where you all check in with each other face to face, or and not having that extra distraction, because it is a sign of respect. It's showing that I do care about you, and I want to know what happened to you, and I want to hear about your world from your view without any other distraction. And also to build on I think that it's going to become the new stranger danger. We have to educate ourselves as the technology changes, and how to protect our children within those parameters, and teaching our children, okay, when you have your phone, these are the privacy settings that you want. This is what privacy settings do, and this is what keeps people that you don't want to talk to out of your DMs or things like that.
You bring up a really good point, because I think sometimes with parenting, you think, okay, one and done. Like, I've solved this problem. They don't take their phones in their bedrooms. They park them, at night. They're only on for these hours and not in school. Okay, done. Check. But during those hours of operation, they could be getting into a lot of trouble as well.
Yeah.
And not just necessarily like looking at pornography, which has always been the big scary thing, right? There's so many other things, like becoming so connected to it that you're not connected to people in real life.
Yeah.
That's very dangerous. Or being so connected to it that it affects your mental health. Your depression and anxiety increases, even though you're not looking at anything bad.
And we're just now getting
We're
that data.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
they're
Just now getting
figuring
it.
that out.
New.
Just
now.
time on
Yes.
is correlated to
Even
mental
if
health.
you're looking at great things. 'Cause I remember in the beginning when I would say, it seems to me like you're on your phone too much. I'm not looking at anything bad was always
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, I know I'm checking your phone, because that's the other thing, checking things. They can also hide things really, really great. And you know who told me that? My son. He was like, you shouldn't let, one of my other kids be on this app. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, well, they downloaded this app and you shouldn't let them. Like, here's my kid telling me that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, and instead of getting mad, to my credit, I was like, tell me more. What is happening? Well, this app does this, and it has an outside source server. So creepers can come in and they can they can steal your information, or they can be gross, or, all these like lists of things. And it's not secure. And I don't know anything about what he's talking about, but I'm trusting him and saying, yeah, you can't go on that app. 'Cause
Never mind.
Miles said it wasn't me. No, but it was very useful,
helpful.
because there's so much that we don't know as the technology changes, and as there's new and exciting ways for people to exploit and use and entrap our children. And I don't want it to be fear-based, but it is changed the way that I talked about technology to my kids completely.
But the only thing that
Completely changed it.
but the only thing we can combat fear with is education.
Exactly.
So if we
Yes.
educate ourselves, we can educate our children, and
Yeah.
they can make informed decisions about how they stream, what they stream, and how they use technology to better their lives.
Yeah.
Because it really, there's
And
not
if
going to be
they
a
mess
life without
up,
it.
or they are concerned, or they don't know what to do, or they're wondering about something that's kind of a gray area, that they'll be willing to come to you and ask you about it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we have to stay adaptable as we get new information. I think I've always been very like anti-video game. And I was just like, I don't want my kids to play video games.
I never played video
And
games.
now my kids have a Switch and they play Zelda together, and it's the most bonding time that we have in our home. Those three playing
had
Zelda
the same
together.
experience.
And I kind of have been like, okay, I can adapt to
love it.
this because it's
Together.
actually really quality time that they're spending with each other, and it's a positive. And I was wrong in that sense. So I think we can stay adaptable and also understand that we just can't control everything. If kids want to find a way to do something with the phone, it doesn't matter what your rules are. It doesn't. They'll find a way to do it. So focus instead on the relationships you have with your kids, teaching them about why their worth is such that they shouldn't want to behave in those ways. I think sometimes it's deeper
That's
than that.
so helpful.
Because
the
no matter what rules we make, and I think it's spoken like the rebellious teenager that I was, we're going to do what we want to do. So
It's true.
watch me, right? So it's like teaching different rules, I think.
Daring me to find a a workaround for
We
that.
can only control so much, especially as they get older.
Well, even to your point, like the principles, just what are the principles of the thing? Because I mean, I don't know what they're looking at. I do know what they're looking at because I look at their history, but they're not watching anything bad. It's just, they're just sitting there watching things for, I have one child just sits in her bed and watches things and it's just like, what are some goals of your life and what are some things you want to accomplish? It's like, we're not even talking about cell phones at this point, but we're going to be talking about how you spend your time. Because
Consuming versus creating in general.
Exactly. And how is this making you feel being inactive and not doing those things, and what kind of relationships do you want to have, right? I tell my kids, don't accept anybody you haven't met in person. And they've met some friends. Their worlds are so big. Their social circles, I'm shocked. I would know in high school a couple kids from other high schools and stuff around town. She has friends all up and down the Wasatch Front. Friends of friends that they met on DMs, and then they met, and they'll run into each other in person. And it's amazing. Like, that's good, right? To a point. But then I'm like, when you're trying to maintain so much, that takes so much energy because it's all maintaining electronically. So I'm like, let's actually make sure we maintain our physical core, our physical connections that we have with people, kind of prioritize those before the electronic connections that aren't necessarily as deep.
Well, and the research is supporting that as well as it's coming out, that the more time that teenagers are spending and young adults, and especially young girls, like that 8 to 13-year-old age range is depressed in levels that we haven't seen for generations. I'm really concerned about that.
Yeah.
And there is a correlation between how much time they spend on social media and how depressed they are. I like to share that information, even with like my adult kids, just to say, this is what we're finding out. Do you think that this is true? How have you managed it? I ask them what they've figured out because in a lot of ways, they have more experience in some of these things than I do. They see it differently. And I'll say, like, looking back, were we too strict? Were we not strict enough? What kind of blind spots did we have? And the reason why I do that is because I already know I've messed it up. And so my ego isn't attached to that. I did the best I could at the time with the tools that I had. And so I'm at peace with that. But also I want them to get into the practice of self-evaluating and knowing that they're going to have to constantly change their minds about this. Something that completely flipped it, I think, for everyone. And I have this conversation with people a lot, like the pandemic just like messed everybody up.
Yeah.
And I had really good rules and we were in a really good habit and my kids were all under my roof. And then the pandemic hit and their dad died. Everyone was super depressed. Everyone was, and I'm not alone in this. Like, I know a lot of people, whether they had a loss in the family or people where everyone was depressed. And so our social media use, I mean, this is how they're doing school. This is how they're meeting their friends. This is how they're trying to find a connection. And I remember thinking, this is so weird that I'm asking my kids, I'm encouraging them to get online with their friends and play a game because they're so depressed
Yeah,
and they
That's how
need
the
to be with their
cousins-
friends.
yeah, the
I'm like,
cousins
this
stayed in
is weird.
touch.
Never saw that coming. But then it opens up and I'm like, okay, put your phones away and then go see each other and face to face because this is what the research says. And it's, but that adaptability with technology is unlike anything I've seen in parenting.
But accepting that need of technology as the band-aid that it was and nothing more, like
That's a good
you
point.
needed connection because you couldn't have human life in connection.
Yeah.
So this is how we connected, but it's not how we're going to continue to connect is okay. Like it was a band-aid.
And that was a good lesson I think we learned. And especially, I work in education, and especially seeing, there's a huge, there's a ton of online schooling, which for some kids is great and works really, really well. But it also proved that we do need to be together and learning together and in person for the majority of kids. Again, there's always exceptions, but really we need that physical connectedness, the face to face, the working things out. Behind that wall of an electronic device, people are different.
It's true. And no wonder like young girls are feeling depressed when they're on social media and everyone is filtered to filth.
Everything's curated and perfect and wonderful.
and
Yes.
your
So-
frontal lobe is developing.
The human psyche was not designed to handle that much feedback at all times.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
That's a great
the
way
world
to
is
put it.
too big. I mean, it's great because we can learn so much. So, but sometimes I think it's overwhelming.
yeah.
My friends my age can't handle it. So
Yeah,
how are we
yeah.
expecting a 13-year-old girl to handle it?
Exactly.
true.
Myself included. I
Yeah.
can't handle it. It's
I
too
can't
much.
handle it.
So this is so fascinating to me because I want to know what your experience is having had it as a teenager. Now you're in the middle of negotiating things with your own kids, and you see your peers. You see the good, the bad, everything. Who does it the best, and what have you noticed that they do consistently?
Well, I always tell my kids that they're at a disadvantage because I see so clearly the ugly side of things because of my profession and my experience. And so I think I have a more dramatic negative view of it because I've seen how it affects my adult friends. And so I am like my kids love, I'm the last holdout. My kids are the only ones without phones. They have watches, but they don't have phones. And I'm trying to walk that line of like, okay, I know that we need to do this at some point, but when there's already mental health issues at play, I think throwing a phone at it is just, I don't feel good about it. And so I think we kind of have to go back to that of like, what is your gut saying for your child? Because honestly, some of my kids, I think probably could handle it more than others. And how do you walk that line, right? So I just think that it really has to be individual. But the thing that I have seen in the observations I've made, the people who it's gone the best for are people who they have the phones, but they give their kids enough experience and relationship and connection that the phones just aren't prioritized in those kids' lives.
Okay,
And that's a
Interesting.
lot of work
That's
for the
great.
parent. It's not
a lot of work.
it's not like no pressure, but I have watched in my siblings and in my friends who have kids just older than mine, the ones that have been so successful are the ones who are just giving their kids these full lives so their kids don't really feel prone to connect or prone to obsess or prone to spend a lot of time there because they have this full life and they're getting a lot of connection and experience other places. So it's not really about phone rules so much as what life are we creating outside of that.
Yeah.
I love
pressure.
that.
Yeah,
I love
that's
that.
wonderful.
Well, we have some friends that their philosophy was keep our kids so busy. And again, this is, different philosophies, no judgment, but keep our kids so busy. They did, some sports activities and volunteering and different things that they did that they didn't have time for that like downtime.
Well, and that's
know?
what is hard because I'm like, when I come home from work, what do I feel like doing?
Right.
Laying in my bed and scrolling or something, like checking out and letting my
yeah.
kids go do the same. But instead, if I invite them to make dinner with me and if we do things, that's harder. It's a harder choice to make.
It is.
but I think it's worth the fight. And obviously, we can't be perfect all the time. I
Right,
will
right.
lay in my
It's
bed
not
sometimes.
everything,
I
yeah.
remain.
Well, and
No
I
judgment.
also feel
At
like
all.
we can't treat
none.
all technology the same. So
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of times, I say no phones in your bedroom and stuff, and I'll go and I'll see like my youngest has her phone in her bedroom, and I'm like, what are you doing? And what she's doing is she's doing a drawing tutorial. She's watching a YouTube video and she's practicing something, an art. I think that's so much different than just watching YouTube videos. And
Or
someti-
scrolling socials.
which she also does, which I also do. I think one thing that's helped me to make less decisions out of fear and more out of empowerment is and my kids are older, to have those questions of like, those existential questions like, why do you think that we're here? What is your purpose in life? Is this helping you?
Oh, you're bored? Let's discuss our purpose.
No, seriously. My poor children. But they respond to it. Like, do you want to be the kind of person that's like, well, what did you do this summer? I was on the computer I logged this many hours on this game. And they were like, well, a little bit. And I'm like, absolutely. I'm not saying all or nothing, but they see that and they go, oh, I know what you mean. Because they know people like that who never do anything, who are in the cave and used to be their friends.
Yeah, well, I've noticed my kids have certain groups of friends where they'll come home early, and I'm like, well, why are you home? And it's like, well, they were all just sitting on their phones.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be there. That's boring. And I'm like, great.
I lean
then
into that
let's-
and I'm like, isn't that the worst?
That's the word. I do.
Isn't
I'm
I
like-
hate
I
that?
always
Isn't
wanna
that
get
rude
new friends.
and bad manners and not
rude.
being
Do stuff.
And
They
I'm
do-
like,
they
man,
do
that's the
things.
worst, because I
Yeah.
think it's good experience for them to
yeah.
see, like, I don't like being treated this way, so let's not do it. But
Yeah.
again, we see adults struggle with this. I go
Yeah.
to lunch with certain people, and I'm like,
Yeah.
hey,
Oh, yeah.
you see it. So we all struggle with this, and
Yeah.
I think if we
But we need to talk about it.
understand that a little bit more, we can cut our kids some slack, because it's not a 13-year-old problem who hasn't scrolled social media and felt bad about themselves in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah, let's stop saying it's, oh, what are we going to do about the kids?
Oh, those
about the kids?
yeah,
Right.
those children are in
Ago.
danger. We've got it all figured out.
Or it just makes me want to buy things that I don't need.
Oh my god.
Okay, we're not
the
going
pointed
there.
ads
Okay,
are
okay.
just
Stop
unreal.
that.
Let me.
They do know me.
Targeted ads are a service, and I will stand by that.
I know. Targeted ads are a service.
It's on the line for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although
has
I've
been such a
received
good-
some wonderful. Anyway, sorry.
I know. It's okay.
As an aside, yeah.
Because this is so great, and it's like I want to keep going, and we've run out of time. We have time just to go around one more time, and I think there is usefulness for this, especially with this group, because you guys get it. I do think like saying, okay, what are your non-negotiables though when it comes to technology? Because I will say, first of all, my older kids got phones too early, and I regretted it. And when my younger kids were like, hey, what gives? They got this, and I'm this, and I said to them, I made a mistake, and the research proved me wrong, so I changed my mind, and I stand by it. You're not getting a phone, and that was uncomfortable, and it was hard, and I got a lot of pushback. But then I think later I got respect because now they're older, because they know that I'm taking it seriously, and that I'm not just making arbitrary rules because I said so. And I can be negotiated with. I can change my mind. So for me, I feel like that is something that I can be proud of, that I made a mistake and that I was able to change my mind and share that with my kids, instead of like, I'm all knowing and all about. I think, I'm that was wrong. I feel really bad about it, actually.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to do this, and I'm going to try harder. And I struggle with it too. I struggle with spending too much time on my phone. For me, that's a non-negotiable in the discussion about technology. What about you?
A non-negotiable. I mean, it's really hard to think about that, because she's not going to have a phone for till she's 40.
It'll be like teleportation by her.
But I think that I'd like to take your non-negotiable and make it mine, that I don't know what technology is going to be when she is the age that I decide she's old enough to have a phone. So as I learn more about the technology, then the rules will change, and that we all have to be flexible in how technology changes and how it changes our lives.
Yeah.
It's hard to make a hard and fast rule
Yeah.
when the technology is constantly updating and changing. I mean, how many times do we have to update our phones? And then everything changes. It's like learning a whole new language. Oh my gosh, I sound like my mother.
The circle of life and the
It's
circle
what
of
happening.
council
I
of
was
moms.
going to say this is what happens a little bit too. Yeah.
I think right now my non-negotiable, I mean, I've said no phones for right now for the ages that my kids are.
Yeah.
We do allow a monthly, it's a day on the calendar, literally, where I accept their presentations of why they should have them.
Oh,
That's incredible.
that's
And,
awesome.
and I tell them that I'm actually open-minded. So
Yeah.
I'm not, it doesn't matter what it's not like I don't care what you say, it's a no. I understand everyone has them. At school they need them. It is hard, and I want them to feel like heard by me, but right now I don't feel good about it. So I guess my non-negotiable is trusting my gut, but staying really actually open and adaptable to
Your
hearing.
kids are going to get really good at the PowerPoint
They
presentation.
are already very
They're
good.
going to turn into lawyers.
I'm actually really impressed.
We've received PowerPoints before for some things, and I love it when the kids present their arguments. I think it's such a great.
It's a good way to hear them out.
It's so great. I love it.
non-negotiable for you?
I'm taking
My
PowerPoint.
non-negotiable is that if you don't respond to me in a manner specific to the type, like if you don't text me back right away within 5 minutes of me texting you, or if you don't answer my phone calls after I called a couple times, then why do you have a phone?
Okay.
Because
I feel that.
this phone is my phone to get in touch with you.
I feel this.
So it's kind of non-negotiable that you have to communicate. If you have a phone that is primarily
what
a
it's for.
communication device,
that serious tone just shook.
I know. Don't you feel the power
I will
in our
text you
voice?
back.
Like, yeah.
this is what it's for. It's for connection for us. And so if you're not able to do that, then maybe it needs a little time out.
It puts on it too that it's a privilege to have that kind of
Exactly.
connection until you can pay for it yourself.
Until you pay for it yourself. Yeah.
I love it. It always brings up like a really spirited discussion. If you're ever like, I don't know what we're going to talk about technology. If you're like, starting a council of moms, it seems intimidating. I don't know what we talk about. Just ask them about their technology policies. You'll have no problem. Thank you for joining us on the Council of Moms. Thank you for listening to the Council of Moms. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Find us on any of the podcast platforms. And if you have a question for the Council of Moms, please leave a comment for us on The Lisa Show on Instagram or Facebook.